Hello, welcome to Snails and Fairy Dust. Today I want to show you how to make these beaded hoop earrings. It's a really fun little project and it comes together quickly. You see, I love making them in like 100 different colors. You can make them to go with all of your outfits. They would make a fun bridesmaid gift or birthday present, or make them all for yourself, whatever you want to do. The stitch is called tubular herringbone stitch, and it is really a great stitch for a beginner, and I know you could do it and you're going to enjoy it. So let's do this. Okay, for our supplies, I am using a size 11 seed bead. Use whatever kind of bead you want, but you do want them to be round, a round seed bead rather than a delica. I have fireline beading thread, but you could use whatever beading thread you like. I have a 25 millimeter beading hoop. I've bought these pre-cut and bent, 25 millimeters. I have pliers to bend my hoops later. I have a size 12 beading needle, and I have clippers. To get started, you're going to want to cut about 4 feet of your beading thread and thread your needle, and you are going to pick up 4 beads, just like so. And then you're going to slide those beads down towards the end of your thread. You want to leave a 4-inch tail, at least a 4-inch tail. And then you're going to bring your needle around and come back up through the first 2 beads, like so. And then those 2 beads are going to sit next door to each other like this. And then we are going to come down the other side to complete the loop, like so. Now we're going to pick up our next 2 beads, and we are going to come down through those second 2 beads, pull that tightly, and then we come back up through the 2 beads we've just added. I'm going to straighten this out a little bit. There we go. You want them sitting right next to each other. This stitch is technically called ladder stitch, but we're just using it for the beginning here. Pick up 2 new beads, come back up through those 2 beads we just added, and then we're going to come down through those last 2 beads. Sorry for the bad camera angle right there. Now we're better. Okay. Now we should have 4 sets of 2 beads sitting next door to each other. And then we're going to take our needle and come back up through the original 2 beads from where our tail end is coming out, like so. And we're going to pull them together in a little tube. There we go. When we pull that, the little tube closes up. And then we want to bring our needle down through the last 2 beads we've added, so we can sort of close this little tube. So down through there. And then we're going to follow that by coming back up through the first 2 beads, which will close our tube. Just like that. Okay, so now we're going to begin adding beads 2 at a time. So I pick up my first 2 beads, and I'm going to be working to the left here. I want to come down through the neighbor bead, just the first one there. The first one in the neighboring 2 beads. I pull that down, and then again, I'm working to the left. I'm going to bring my needle now up through the next top neighbor bead, like so. So we're working in between that bottom row, not through the whole set of beads. So I'm coming up through there. I add 2 more beads, and then I'm going to go working to the left again, come down through the next bead. So my needle's coming out in between those 2 beads in the bottom row. This is the trickiest part of the whole thing. Once we get through here, it gets really easy, I promise. And we're just going to sort of straighten this out here. And now I'm going to come back to the left again and bring my needle up through the second bead from the bottom of that row. So the middle bead. There we go. Have something looking like this. And then I'm going to add my next 2 beads. So now we're going to get into a little rhythm. Working to our left, we come down, always coming down through just the first bead. But what will vary is whether we're coming up through 2 beads or whether we're coming up through 1 bead. So this time we're going to come up through 1 bead. And you can see where the string lands, that if you go straight across, it's going to want to come up through that first bead. Just like that. Sorry for the unfocus. There we go. So we're coming up through that bead. And then we're going to add 2 more beads, still working to the left. Come down through the first bead. And then this time, we're going to come up through 2 beads because you see the thread is coming out further down. So I'm coming up through those 2 beads to the left. I pull that like so. So we're going to continue this pattern. So I pick up 2 beads, go down through the first bead, and then I'm going to come up through 1 bead, and then I pick up 2 more beads, working to the left, come down through the first bead, and this time I'm coming up through the top 2 beads, just like so. And so you're going to keep this pattern of coming up through 1 bead and then coming up through 2 beads, coming up through 1 bead and then coming up through 2 beads. So now we're going down through 1 bead, always going down through 1 bead. And then this time we're going to come up through 1 bead. And if you ever lose track of whether you're coming up through 1 or 2, look at where your thread lines up. You know, if you were going to go through 2, it would be skipping a bead and it would look weird. So just see where your thread naturally wants to go. So I'm going to pick up 2 more, and I'm going to speed this up now because hopefully you are getting the hang of this. And for this particular pattern, I am doing 20 sets of these 2 beads at a time. So 20 rows, and then I'll add the other color for 20 rows. And I have figured out that that ends up being the perfect amount to make the beading section of a 25 millimeter beaded hoop. I hope that all makes sense. Obviously, you could use whatever size hoop you want, but for my specific hoops, it turns out that 40 beads length is the perfect length for me to still have room to put the earring on and everything. So you keep beading. Remember, you're going to go 2 and then 1 and then 2 and then 1. You've got this. I'll see you back here in a second. So now you see I have finished my 20 rows of the turquoise, and I'm going to start with the orange now. I just wanted you to see that how that transition happens. It's super easy. Just switch colors. Nothing else to do here. And once you get good at this, then obviously you can start making patterns or all sorts of fun designs you can make with tubular herringbone stitch. You can keep going and make necklaces. You can make bracelets. It's a really fun stitch. And once you have the hang of it, I hope you are finding now that it's actually quite enjoyable. So you finish the rest of your tube and then meet me back here and we will finish off that tube and then learn how to add them to the hoops. So see you in a bit. Okay, so here we are. I have finished my beads And I'm going to come up through the two to finish it off. And then I want to sort of squeeze my tube together like this. And I need to close those top little holes. So I'm going to come down through the neighboring beads and sort of loop this so these beads stay together. See, at the top, we want there to be thread all the way around that square so that your hoop doesn't slide out. So then I'm going to come back up through those first beads I was coming through to make a complete loop. And then I'm going to come down through the neighboring beads. And I'm doing two at a time now, always two at a time. And then I'm going to come up through the neighboring beads to that. And then down again to make a loop and close off that top. So you want the top of the tube to not have a sort of gap where your metal hoop can fall out. So you want it to have that square like that. And so that's completely closed off now. And now I'm going to weave my thread into this tube and end it. So we can cut it and move on to the next thing. So here I'm going to come down like this. I am going to find two beads across the aisle from each other. And I am going to loop around them, creating some tension so that my thread doesn't come undone. So I've gone up through that one. I'm going to go down through this one. Being careful not to tangle things. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to do that again. I don't like to make knots, so with this type of thing, I'm just going to make sure that I loop it in a few places to just really create the tension. The thing with knots is that they can pull your work sort of out of whack and they look ugly. So here we go. We're going to loop around this part. This time I'm going to go around twice to create some extra tension. And then just thread it back down a little bit further to get it out of the way. And now I'm ready to clip it. And then I will take my needle and thread the other side and do the same thing with the other side. So meet me back here when you finish that, and then I will show you how to add your herringbone stitch to your beaded hoops, your hoops that you're going to wear. Okay, see you in a second. Okay, look what we have. I hope you're super proud of yourself. Now comes the fun, easy part. We're going to take our little hoop. These I've purchased ahead of time like this, like I said in the beginning, and I'm just going to slide it down through my tube. Now, this pair is working incredibly easy. Sometimes it could get sort of stuck. You want to just take your time and make sure the metal isn't coming out through holes in your tube. That's what most commonly happens to me. So just kind of take your time, get it on there. Don't rush it. You don't want to poke a hole through your beadwork and mess up the metal at this point. So I'm going to do that to the other one. Slide that down. Sometimes sort of wiggling it back and forth helps it to go better. Change directions. You don't want to bend your earring hoop. So that's the important thing, is don't bend it out of shape. So now I'm going to take my pliers, and these have, so the little hook side of it, the loop side of it is facing upwards, and I just want to flatten that. So I'm bending that down. So now that's flat. And then I am going to take the straight side, and I want to give myself probably like 5 millimeters from the end. And then I'm just going to bend that straight up. You want a 90-degree angle there. So straight up like that. And that's not quite straight all the way. So I'm going to fix that. There we go. And now that hooks right on there. And the reason I don't make the tube of beads like come all the way to the end is you need that space to be able to get the earring onto your ear, like through your earring hole. So you want to leave that gap there so you have that room, that wiggle room to actually put the earring on. So I'm doing the same thing to this side. And there we have it. Look at these super cute earrings we just made. I hope you enjoyed it. I also wanted to point out that I make my earrings so they're opposite. So like when I'm wearing them, it's orange on one side and blue on the other, which I think is really fun. So if you want to do that, consider that while you are attaching your hoops to make sure you have them where you want them to be. These are some of the other ones I've made just to show you. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please subscribe. I have a lot of other great ideas for like summer fun, easy jewelry to make this year. And I hope I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.